In this video, we're going to take a look at our lesson on elimination, but take it a step further to where we have to use some multiplication in order to continue with the process. So before we do that, let's just review one scenario of some equations that we are familiar with um, when we've been solving our system of equations where we have two equations with the same variables. So looking at number one here, we want to solve the system by elimination, and to eliminate means to cancel, to get rid of, to let it go away. So how we've been approaching this, remember, is we add down. So we're going to add our two equations together, right? And when we add down, we just combine these like terms. So we have a 2 plus a negative 6. So use calculators as you need to, okay? No one expects us to be able to do all this on our own. So if we take 2 plus negative 6 in the calculator right there, we get a little reminder there that it's negative 4, okay? So negative 4 is that first one we're looking for. So that is a negative 4x. Okay, now after that, that's actually the really important part here. Look at what you have in front of the y's. You have a positive 3y and a negative 3y right there next to each other. So with that positive 3 and that negative 3, when we add these together, they're going to cancel away. And that's what we want to happen. That's what elimination means. So when we combine the 3 and the negative 3, that is 0y, okay? Which is good. We want to get 0. And then negative 5 plus negative 3, we can check. Negative 5 plus negative 3 is, oops, I forgot the negative. So negative 5 plus negative 3 is negative 8. So after that fraction, we get negative 8, or the equal sign. We get negative 8. And remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video, rewind it, whatever you need to do. But here's what I really want to do. I want to realize that we don't need this plus 0y. There's no reason to keep it there, right? So really, this is just negative 4x equals negative 8. And we kind of avoid the negatives sometimes to get used to processes, but we need to know how to deal with them. And it's just the same as any other scenario. When you have a coefficient, this number in front of x, we always cancel it the same way. We cancel it by dividing. So we're going to divide both sides of this equation by negative 4. We always divide by the coefficient. So if there's a negative 4 in front of x, divide by negative 4. If there's a positive 4 in front of x, divide by positive 4. But after you divide, the reason is to get rid of those negative 4s. And now you have x equals, and you have a negative 8 divided by a negative 4. Again, calculators can help us with that stuff. Negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2. We need to know that's positive 2. And right there in your solution, you just found the first half of the answer. So the x value is positive 2. So we put that 2 in the x spot. Okay, so now we know what x is. We still need to find y. So we've got this 2. To find y, what we're going to do is we're going to use our answer, right? So we've done this before, and we go back to one of the two equations. We can either use the first or the second equation. You got two of them. But I really like the first one way more if I'm going to have to use another one, because this first equation says 2x plus 3y. And I really like this one because everything is a positive number in front of our variables here. And I really like it when I have positive coefficients. So we have positive coefficients, the positive variables here. And those we just tend to make fewer mistakes when we use those numbers. So we're going to use our positive coefficients. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring this 2 that we just found and put it right there for x, okay? So what we do is we rewrite this equation. So instead of 2 times x, we replace the x. It's 2 times 2. This is 2 times 2, okay? So we have our x value of 2 that we put in, but I'm writing in purple here, the same color, because everything else stays. We still have the 2 at the beginning. We still have the plus 3y in the middle. We still have the negative 5 at the end. It's just we had this 2 that we need to put in. And after that, everyone, it's so repetitive. It's the same steps over and over. You have parentheses. Parentheses mean multiply, okay? So this is where we multiply. And 2 times 2 is 4. So we get a 4 plus a 3y equals negative 5. Now, looking at this equation, we have 2 steps to solve, okay? We have y on the left side of the equal sign. If we put a bubble around it, we see there's a 3 right there. we always need to cancel this floating number out front. We need to cancel this 4 to start. So we have a positive 4, we cancel it away. That's a minus 4, okay? So minus 4 there, minus 4 there. So we cancel those 4s, they're gone. On the left side then, we still have, after those 4s go away, remember whatever we write on one side, we write on the other side. After those 4s go away, we still have our 3y equals, and negative 5 minus 4. Again, calculators can help us out with that. If we type negative 5 minus 4, we see that's a negative 9 that we're going to keep. So going back, we're going to put a negative 9 on this side. And you're so close. We're just not done yet. We have 3y equals negative 9. Hey, just like before, when you had a negative 4 in front of x, you had this coefficient, you divided to cancel. We're going to do the exact same thing now. We need to divide to cancel this 3. So we have a 3y. If we need that 3 to go, it's time to divide. We always divide to cancel the coefficient. So divide by 3 on both sides, and we get y on the left side. So here's our y, equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3, and that will be the second half, okay? Now, the good news is if you can do that, we are going to just use the same process again today. I do have one new thing that we have to do that involves multiplication at the very beginning. But after that step, this is what we're doing. So if you have this down, today, very doable. It's all the same thing, okay? But we are going to need to use the distributive property. And that's where we take an equation like this one. I just made this one up. It says 4x minus 5y equals 12. It's taking an equation like this that has maybe 3 parts to it and multiplying it all by a number. So what I did was I took this equation and I wrote it twice down here. 2 examples, A and B, and we're going to multiply this equation by 2 different numbers. In the first case, we're going to multiply by positive 2. The second case, we're going to multiply by negative 3. Now, to remind you on how that works, when we distribute, when we multiply by this 2, it has to multiply to each individual spot inside parentheses. So I have the entire equation inside these parentheses. I'm going to draw arrows just one at a time, showing what I'm multiplying at each moment. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking the 2 on the outside times the 4x on the inside. And 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4x is just 8x. And okay, so I multiplied the 2 to the 4x. And now I need to multiply 2 to a negative 5y, okay? And if you don't know what 2 times negative 5 is, just type 2 times negative 5 in the calculator, and we get negative 10, okay? A positive times a negative is a negative answer, so negative 10y. Okay, so the numbers are getting bigger because we're multiplying by 2, still have the equal sign in the exact same place. Last step would be multiply one last time. So 2 times that 12 right there, and 2 times 12 is 24. Okay, and that's what we're going for, everybody. Can we multiply by a number throughout set of parentheses? And then can we do that again? So example B, same idea, exact same idea, except I put a negative number in front this time. So it should work the same, but we just need to be careful with our negatives. So let's watch here. Drawing arrows again, showing what I'm multiplying each time. So right now we're taking the negative 3 times 4x, and we can look, negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, okay? So that's going to give us negative 12x, because there's an x with the 4. Okay, so then after that, we're going to take negative 3 times negative 5. That's a negative number times another negative number. So again, go back to your calculator. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. So what we're going to put after that is a positive 15. And since there was a y with the 5, it's positive 15y. Okay, still have the equal sign. And then the very last thing, we've got negative 3 times positive 12 and negative 3 times 12. Again, calculators are great when we need them. Is negative 36. So we got negative 36 way over there. All right, and that's the skill we need as we go on to our last examples. Can we multiply an equation by a number? So let's give it a try. I've got 2 examples left. I've got some steps here. We're going to solve by elimination. So that's the cases where the equations have everything lined up vertically. So the x's are lined up, the y's are stacked above and below, the equal signs, and then the numbers with no variable. Okay, and then what we're going to do today is we're going to see what would cancel And we might need to multiply an equation to make that happen. And then we repeat the steps. We'll add our equations, get an answer for x, plug it in, substitute it, and then find our answer for y. Okay? So I have this one guided for us. It says multiply the bottom equation by something. And I'm saying that for this reason. If you're looking at your variables, look at the x's. You got a -2 and a +7, right? Those do not cancel. A -2 plus 7, that's 5. Nothing goes away there. But as you look at the next one, right, you have a +15 and a -5. They don't cancel, but we have a positive and a negative. And here's the thing. While they don't cancel yet, because 15 plus -5 is 10, and we want to get 0, I can actually multiply this second equation by a number. And if I multiply it by something, I'm going to get a number down here that cancels the number in the top. And that number is going to be 3, and I want to show you why. If you take this second equation and multiply it by 3, and go through one at a time. So multiply 3 times 7. Okay, so 3 times 7, that's 21x. And then keep going with that process. 3 times -5, and this is the important one. 3 times -5 is a -15y. And that's really good for us, and I'll show you why. Let me finish this multiplying. 3 times 17, that's 51. Calculator can help us get there. But notice I just said multiply the bottom equation by something, and I'm suggesting it's 3, and here's why I'm suggesting it's 3. If I leave the first equation as it is, so -2x plus 15y equals -32, check out what that says. Check out what I have in front of the y's right here. The top equation has a 15 in front of y, positive 15. The second equation has a -15 in front of y. And those are the kind of numbers that cancel when we add. When they say the same thing, one positive, one negative. So that's why I multiplied by 3, because multiplying by 3 turned the middle number to a -15. Notice it was a -5 when we started, and now it's a -15, okay? That's exactly what we need. So now that we have that, we're going to add these together. So let's add them up. So let's add the two equations and see what we get. We have -2x plus 21x. Put that in the calculator. You're going to get 19x right there, okay? A 15 plus a -15, everybody. Again, if we have to put it in, 15 plus -15, that's 0. That's exactly what we needed to happen. So adding 15 with -15, that makes these go away, okay? So we're going to let them go. Those two are gone. And if we let those go, then on the other side, we have -32 plus 51. That's 19, okay? Which is really, really good. We want those y's to cancel, okay? You know what? I'll go ahead and put it in so we're not confused later. Let's let those y's cancel. It is 0y. But remember, we don't need the 0y there. So we're going to just write this as 19x equals 19, and then solving for x is what we did earlier. When you have a coefficient, you divide, okay? So we're going to divide these. So divide by 19, divide by 19, and we're going to get our value for x is positive 1. And now that you have that, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take that answer and you're going to substitute it into an equation, okay? Now, earlier we said pick the equation where that has positive variables, and you don't quite have that here. Your first equation has a -2x, and your second equation has a -5y. So there's a negative in either equation that we pick. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick. It's your choice. Maybe you pick the top equation where everything's positive, or where the y is positive. Maybe pick the bottom equation because it has smaller numbers. That's totally up to you, okay? Let's say we go with the second equation, and it doesn't matter, but let's say we use the second equation. So I'm going to go ahead and write that one down. Equation number 2 over here. So I'm going to equation number 2, and we're going to multiply, we're going to rewrite it, sorry. So the equation number 2 said 7x minus 5y equals 17. And we're going to substitute into this. So for this one, we have x is equal to 1, right? So let's take this x and let's put that value into this equation. So we're going to rewrite the equation. Still has a 7, but instead of putting x after that, we're going to replace that x with the number 1. Okay, that's what we figured out it was equal to. So x is 1 right there. Okay, after that, we still have a minus 5y, and we have an equals 17. Okay, so just like before, this is all new, this is all the same now. The only thing new is that we multiply by 3, but these are all the same steps as earlier. So continuing on, just kind of reminding you, we multiply here to get a new number. 7 times 1 is 7. You still have a minus 5y equals 17. We're trying to solve for y. And again, just like earlier, you have a number attached to the y right here. So we cancel the number that's not attached, the 7. So we're going to subtract the 7 to cancel it, okay? So we're going to subtract 7 here, subtract 7 here. That's what makes the 7s go away. And we're subtracting 7 because we have a positive 7 right there. Negative 7's the opposite. So if those 7s go away, you have everything inside the bubble. You still have a negative 5y. The right side, 17 minus 7, that is 10. So we have negative 5y equals 10. And just like earlier, when it's time to divide, which is what we're going to do right now, we have a number in front of y. It is a negative number, so we will divide by a negative number. We're going to divide by negative 5 here, okay? And if we divide both sides by negative 5, you're going to solve for y, okay? So we get y equals, and on the right side, 10 divided by a negative 5 is negative 2. So there is the solution. We have a positive 1 and a negative 2. And the steps are exactly the same as before. It's just we needed to add, or we just needed to multiply to get something to cancel. Okay, so I'm going to give you one more example of this because new idea for us, and I want us to be proficient and feel comfortable. Looking at number 4, we have a new equation, and the y's don't cancel yet. The x's don't either, because when we add these, 5x plus 3x, that's going to be 8x, and a 4y plus a 2y, that is 6y. So nothing cancels yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these y's really quickly and ask ourselves, how could we make those cancel? The top y has a 4, the bottom y has a 2. How can we make those cancel each other? Okay, and the answer to that is going to be, we're going to multiply the bottom equation. And let's talk about what we can multiply it by. Let's say we put a 2 right here and see if that's going to work. If we multiply by 2, let's think about what's a 2 times that 2 going to give us? Well, 2 times 2, that's going to turn into a 4. That's going to turn this into a 4y. But 4y is what we already have. We need to get a negative 4y here to cancel that 4y. Well, if that's all you need, you just need a negative 4 instead of a positive 4. You have the right number. You just need to make it a negative instead, because taking a negative 2 times that 2y is what gives us a negative 4y right here. And a negative 4y down below will cancel with the positive 4y up above. So we're going to multiply both of them by negative 2. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. Multiplying this equation by negative 2, I'm going to draw the arrows underneath. We have a 2 times a negative, negative 2 times 3. That's negative 6. And then we have negative 2 times 2. That's negative 4. And then equals, last step, negative 2 times 20. That's negative 40. And we got to be really careful with our negatives here, okay? But that gives us a new equation with some bigger numbers. They're all negatives now, but it has something we need, because if we keep the first equation as it is, that gives us a 5x here, a plus 4y here, and a 32 still. So we didn't do anything to this equation. If we add them together, which is what we're going to do now, if we add them together, add down 5 plus negative 6, calculator says negative 1x. 4 plus negative 4, that's 0. That's 0y. That's exactly what we needed. 32 plus negative 40, that's negative 8. Okay, that's perfect, because what we can do now is rewrite this as negative 1x equals negative 8. We don't need the part that says y anymore. So let the part that says 0 go away. All right, and then the last step is divide. We always divide to solve for x. So we're going to divide by negative 1 in this case. So that gives us x equals positive 8. All right, so there's the first half of this one. We have x equals 8. Now, next step would be pick an equation. So your choice, you can pick equation 1 that has 5 and 4 and 32, or you can pick equation 2 that has a 3, a 2, and a 20. And if you want to pick the second equation because it has smaller numbers, that's great. It really doesn't matter in the end, especially since we have calculators to help us. But let's say you go with equation number 2, all right? Because that's what we did last time. Then you'll rewrite that as 3x plus 2y. So we have 3x plus 2y equals 20. And all we're going to do now is we're going to bring the answer that we found, this 8, up and to that x. So that's going to give us 3 times whatever x is. And x in this case is 8. So we have 3 times 8. And then we have plus 2y equals 20. Okay, so this should be repetitive. We've done it many times now. Taking the answer, put it in, and then using it, right? So the next thing would be multiply these together. 3 times 8, that's 24. And that's all that changed. So you still have a plus 2y, and we still have an equals 20. And we are trying to solve this equation, right? So just like before, none of this is changing. You have a 2 in front of y. Cancel the number at the beginning. Cancel the 24. It's a positive 24, so we are going to subtract it. So minus 24, minus 24. You now have 2y is equal to, these 24s canceled. So we have 2y equals 20 minus 24 is negative 4. Last step right here, we're going to divide by the coefficient. So divide by 2, and y is equal to negative 2. All right, final solution right here. We have an 8 as the x value and y negative 2 as that y value. Okay, so on these, we are going to practice this multiplication piece, but everything else gets to stay the same. We still add our equations together. We want something to cancel. We'll get an answer, and then we'll go use it in another equation to find the other half. Okay, so go back and watch the video as needed. Go back to any example you need to, and if you have further questions,